Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Team Trios here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Todd Tandy Anderson, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We have four teams left, and we're going to be watching one of the teams that we've watched a few times today already. Ross, why don't you give us a rundown of maybe not our whole top four, but just the side of the bracket that we're going to be watching here in the semifinals?
So, the side that we are featuring is going to be our number one overall seed against the 5 seed. So, the 1 seed we saw a lot in the Swiss, and that's because they had very bad tiebreakers and were unable to draw in the last round.
Right.
So, they are now benefiting from that, having won the win in round 6. Going to be on the play throughout the elimination rounds. That's the team of Dylan Pettit, Gabe Abadi, and Dylan Glendening, playing a very interesting mix of decks in
Yes.
Selesnya Heliod, Jeskai Affinity, and Mono Blue Belcher, respectively. They're going to be up against our 5 seed. That's the team of Nick DeMichelle, Stephen Francis, and Logan Underwood. This team was in our standard top 8 yesterday. They were felled in the quarterfinals then. They've made it past that hump today, gotten a little bit of revenge. Now they're in the semifinals, looking to go all the way and punch their tickets to that Apex Invitational in November.
Yeah, Underwood performing very well in some of our last few tournaments. It's no surprise to see him with back-to-back top eights. Strong player, and it looks like he's got a good team with him too.
Yeah, they're going to be on 4-color Omnath, Mono Black Eldrazi, and Grixis Control, respectively. So a very interesting set of 6 deck lists in this Team Trios matchup.
That's been my experience with Team Modern here at Apex, is that people just like whatever decks they like, and so we usually just get tons and tons of different stuff in the feature match area, which I love. Yesterday it was a little more static, a lot of is it and standard and things like that, but today it's just been the Wild West.
It is complete nonsense.
But I love nonsense, Ross. I don't know if you know this about me.
So looking at our individual matchups for this feature match, we'll start with the backup matches. We have Dylan Glendening on Mono Blue Belcher against Logan Underwood on Grixis Control. This is an interesting match. Somebody who's played quite a bit of Belcher. I usually feel pretty good against the Dimir Frog decks, unless they have a turn 2 Frog that you can't Stern Scolding, Spell Snare, Disrupting Shoal, that you can't counter. This deck, very similar to Dimir Frog or Dimir Murktide, but I think significantly better in the matchup for a few reasons. One, Tomio gives them another early threat that can be very difficult to win the game through because it just generates so much card advantage. And then Snapcaster Mage in later games gives them access to even more counterspells. They can Snapcast Force of Negation, Snapcast Counterspell. They can Snapcast Flame of Honor or Kolaghan's Command to destroy a Goblin Char Belcher that you had to tap out for. So I think they have more tools in the matchup than a typical Dimir deck.
Yeah.
So this, to me, is a very close one and could go either way. It really depends on whether or not Logan Underwood can establish an early source of card advantage, be it Tomio or Psychic Frog.
Yeah, I think Psychic Frog on turn 2 is just a way for them to also just like pivot, like leverage in all the interactive pieces around it while continuously refilling you so you can keep doing the disruption. That type of thing is like really difficult for like 1-card combo decks to deal with. As long as he can keep Charbelcher off the table, it should be good. But something like Tameshi could allow him to just like go way over the top and punch through multiple counterspells.
Tameshi, generally the best win condition in the Belcher deck. It's secretly a Tameshi deck.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, okay, maybe it's not a well-kept secret.
It is not. Absolutely not. But 4 Lightning Bolt in the Grixis deck, that's a great removal spell for answering Tameshi. They'll get 1 activation out of it, 1 trigger to draw a card, but once you deal with the Tameshi, then the real threat is them being able to repeatedly use it, and that's gone. So I think that one's a real toss-up. The middle match, that is Gabe Abadi against Stephen Francis, Jeskai Affinity against Mono Black Eldrazi. Can't say this is a matchup I have any experience with, Todd. This Mono Black Eldrazi deck,
yeah,
I've seen it around. Have not seen a ton of it. Has a lot of good cards. So does the Affinity deck. And I gotta say, black, not a color known for answering artifacts.
True. So that definitely could be a problem. I think what really you're going to see is, does a body have the ability to like stick one of those cheap legendary threats, a Tomio or an Emery? And if one of those is able to like untap and survive, it'll allow this like card advantage chain that a Thoughtseize deck has like a lot of trouble dealing with.
Yeah, completely agree there. I think the effectiveness of the discard spells from Francis is going to be the key in the matchup.
Yeah.
Can a body empty his hand to make the discard spells bad?
Right.
How quickly can he do that? Then also, can Francis follow up early discard that will make a body stumble with early pressure because I don't care how many discard spells you play. If you give your opponent enough top decks, they're eventually going to draw something really good, and the mono black deck might have some issues answering that. So some pressure from Orcish Bowmasters, from Thought-Knot Seer, from Emperor of Bones will be important to follow up that early disruption from the discard spells.
All right, our primary feature match, though, we're going to be watching Dylan Pettit on this green-white Heliod combo deck. We haven't actually watched any of his matches yet because I think he just keeps killing people before a body gets to finish this match.
Yeah, this is a deck that can kill as early as turn 2
Yeah.
with turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, or turn 1 Arbor Elf, turn 2 Sprawl, make 4 mana, Collected Company. You can just hit Heliod and
Look,
Spike Feeder, and you can't literally win the game there, but
no,
you
but
go off.
Infinite Life is pretty good against most decks in the format.
Yeah.
Most decks.
You can also hit something like Basking Broodscale and Rosy Cotton of South Lane. Now, when Rosy Cotton enters, makes that food token, you create a token, you put a counter on the Broodscale. Now the Broodscale makes a token, that triggers the Rosy Cotton, and suddenly you make a giant pile of Eldrazi spawns. Now you have a bunch of mana, and if you have a Walking Ballista in your hand, that's GG.
Boom, boom.
So yeah, very explosive deck. One that Nick DiMichele and the Omnath deck is going to have to watch out for, but he has some really good tools in the matchup, namely Solitude Ephemerate.
Yeah, Solitude Ephemerate, and in general, Solitude great at breaking up creature decks, but specifically creature combo decks. Usually you need 2 creatures in play in order to facilitate some sort of infinite combo, whether it's Heliod plus Spike Feeder or Rosy Cotton plus Basking Broodscale. As long as he has a Solitude to deal with 1, he should be okay, but then that Ephemerate just allows him to clean up all the Arbor Elves, all the other combo pieces that are, kind of half-assed, thrown all over the place. So.
Definitely, if the game goes long, the Omnath deck has tons of card advantage. They're going to win in the end.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, Collected Company gives Pettit some card advantage of his own, and I think one of the key advantages he has in the matchup is Heliod Suncrowned. Very difficult card for the Omnath deck to answer. We don't see any prismatic endings.
Yes. And no leyline bindings in this build either. This is a stock up, more spell dense version.
Yes. So normally Heliod wouldn't be too much of an issue, but if that sticks around long enough, there's just so many ways for Dylan Pettit to combo with it. Might be able to overload the removal from the Omnath deck and grind through it, but sort of power through it with his combos.
All right, well, the players are now situated in the feature match area and ready to go. So let's head on down for the semifinals. These players are fighting for their fair share of $5,000 in cash and prizes. Today's champion trio will be granted entry into the regional championship as well as the Apex Invitational later this year. Michelle leads with the windswept Heath, so does Dylan Pettit. I believe Pettit was on the play, so we're going to fetch on the instep and go get a Lush Portico. This is going to Travail 1.
Just the one Lush Portico in the mana base for this Selesnya Heliod deck. Being only 20 lands, just can't afford to play too many tapped lands. So not as much surveilling going on for Dylan Pettit as most of the players we've seen today.
Keeps that card on top and immediately plays it for his land for turn, so likely kept a very land-light hand and finds freedom. Here's Temple Garden, 2-drop incoming. We'll see what is deployed in just a moment. Malevolent Rumble going to dig top 4 and create a Scion. Or a Spawn, excuse me. 4 cards are Spike Feeder. Looks like a... Is there a Stomping Ground in the deck, or is that just like a Wooded Foothills?
I think it's a Wooded Foothills.
It's like all Japanese cards. Dylan was razzing me between rounds about how he had all these Japanese cards in this deck.
Arid Mesa is the take, so Dylan wanting another land. He finds it.
All right, Nick's turn 2 coming shortly, but we're going to end of turn. Go get a Surveil land. These Surveil lands really just reshape the entirety of the landscape in Modern, just giving decks the ability to filter early draws as well as make great use of fetch lands later in the game.
Yeah. Nick more than making up for his opponent's lack of Surveil lands, has 4 in the 23 land mana base. Thundering Falls, Lush Portico, Hedge Maze, and Elegant Parlor all making an appearance.
Well, that puts them above average for normal, which is 2 and 2, so... Steam Vents is land number 2 for DiMichele. I'm not sure if he's going to cast anything here. Maybe just hold up Dress Down or something similar. We're going to pass back to Dylan. Access to potentially 4 mana thanks to the Eldrazi. And that land drop he found off the Rumble. We'll see if he has that in like a Collected Company. Quickly fetches with the Arid Mesa. Planes coming into play.
Okay, what is the play here? That looks like a Heliod.
Yeah, Heliod Sun Crown. Let's get this one on the screen. This one was honestly a nightmare in Pioneer for a little while. When it's in play, if you don't have Devotion 5 to white, it's not a creature. So it's untargetable with creature removal, specifically stuff that exiles as well. Whenever you gain life, you get a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And so there's just so many little ways to generate infinity with Heliod because it's pretty easy to gain 1 life.
Yeah, you can do it with Guide of Souls. You can do it with Spike Feeder. Very easy to find those cards. Nick DiMichele here tapping out for a stock up. So really is relying on a Solitude. Unclear if he has one in his hand, but I have to assume he does. Otherwise, this would be a very dangerous turn to tap out. And even discards the hand size after the stock up, putting a consigned memory in the graveyard.
All right, so the discard and hand size is kind of brutal there, but I think it's very likely he has a Solitude to keep him alive. We'll see how Pettit wants to play this, but if he just casts Spike Feeder and says go and just waits for Nick to do anything, he can just gain infinite life in response. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and then any way to put an extra counter on the Spike Feeder would force action as well.
All right, plays Ranger Captain of Vio, so setting up a potential sacrificing that Ranger next turn before comboing off. Can we get Ranger Captain on the screen? I'm curious if it's non-creature only.
Non-creature.
Okay, so it won't stop Solitude, so maybe Pettit just setting up for potentially multiple combos over the course of multiple turns, and we'll see if Michelle can defend against all of them. Nick draws return. It's another land. I see a couple in hand. Here's Windswept Heath. See if he wants to deploy anything here. Gonna go for a Galvanic Discharge on the Ranger Captain of Eos.
Dylan sacrifices in response, so no more non-creatures for Nick DiMichele this turn, but could play something like, doesn't
Eternal
have
Witness
for an Omnath. Yeah, Eternal Witness. That's a good one.
Yep. Could also play an instant in response to the Ranger Captain's sacrifice ability as well. Nick gonna go fetching with Windswept Heath, finds Breeding Pool. Dealing himself a lot of damage, but not really scared of getting attacked down by the Spike Feeder deck, I guess. Passes with 3 mana up. Upkeep. Orm's Chant. Oh man, what if we have Collected Company in response? That'd be cool.
Does not, so no spells for Dylan Pettit this turn, and no land drop.
Still could Collected Company on the end step. Doesn't have to play it in response to the Orm's Chant. Can just be patient. Might not have it yet. Here's a Wooded Foothills. Going to come down. DiMichele down to 13. Looks like he was going to grab a forest and then decided better of it. Already has a Boseiju in play, so maybe he doesn't want too much green. And we're going to find Sacred Foundry down to 11. Player doing some bookkeeping, make sure their life totals are correct.
And now I think they're good.
Okay. All right. 17-11 is the consensus after it's all said and done. And we're going to play another stock up with 2 mana available. Look at top 5 cards. Finds another Orm's Chant. Perhaps that's the take to continue to stall Dylan out if he's unable to play Sorcery Speed.
But it's stalling without Nick getting anywhere. Could be potentially just buying
Cast a
time.
stock up on that turn. That's getting some. He gained another card in the process. A powerful one, maybe.
But he's not putting any pressure on Dylan. He's not generating any sort of board presence. Now, this Omnath deck can set up an infinite turn loop with Ephemerate, Eternal Witness, and one Time Warp.
Hold on. D. did not play the Orange Chant, so maybe didn't have it. We're going to play Guide of Souls, and then we're going to play Basking Broodscale. And this is going to essentially threaten infinite mana, infinite spawns.
Yeah, we know there's Walking Ballista in hand from the Ranger Captain.
We sure do.
So there's got to be some sort of interaction here for Nick DiMichele, or game one is over.
I think I saw Dress Down peeking out. How does Dress Down solve this situation, or does it?
It absolutely does. The guide wouldn't have abilities, so there would be no life gain. The Heliod is not a creature, so it would have abilities, but
all right, we're going to go
Broodscale
for
abilities.
Solitude. Going to take care of the Guide of Souls, so we're going to stop that Soul Sister before it happens. We do gain a life from the Solitude, which triggers Heliod, which puts a counter on the Scion, or the Spawn. No attack for one. Missed opportunity, perhaps. Could go for the beatdown.
And now Dylan Pettit will want a Rosy Cotton to combo with the Broodscale.
At this point, any way to gain life would pop off as well, I think, right? Just because every life is a +1/+1 counter, and every +1/+1 counter on the Broodscale is a creature. So another Guide of Souls plus another creature might work.
Yeah, Guide of Souls would also do it. You could adapt the Broodscale to start the chain with another guide.
Just a Wrenn and 6 for Dick DiMichele, and the powerful 2-mana Planeswalker. Not really going to be that effective here.
May have wanted to take out the Spawn, but couldn't do that because of Pettit putting the counter on it from Solitude triggering Heliod last turn.
He got buffed. Dylan going to attack for 2. Still choosing not to attack with the Spawn. Here's a Ranger Captain of Eos. That one's going to come down.
That could find a Guide of Souls.
Yep, and next turn we can threaten infinite again.
And protect from non-creatures. And we know Nick DiMichele has another Orim's Chant in hand, so that could stop Pettit for a turn.
He did pitch an Orim's Chant to Solitude.
Oh, so that might be gone now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not 100% though. He does have 4 copies of Orim's Chant in his main deck, so. Alright, going to go down to 10. Nick DiMichele going to fetch with Windswept Heath. Finds a Plains. We're going to tap 4 on the instep, and we're going to Otawara back the Heliod to prevent some of those combos. And we can keep getting it back with Wrenn and 6 over and over. So Dylan going to maybe need to start pressuring the Wrenn and the life total. We did attack it for 2 last turn, so it is down to 3. We'll see if he's able to knock it down next turn.
Another land comes back for Nick.
All right, gets a fetch with this one instead of the Otawara. Grabbing a handful of lands.
This is the Omnath lands. Just trying to figure out how he wants to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. And here is the namesake card, Omnath, Locus of Creation. 4 cost, 4/4, all the non-black mana colors. We're going to play a land for turn that's going to gain us 4 life. And then we can crack this fetch land to gain 4 mana. If we have something like Time Warp, woo,
that could be a good one. Pettit can stop a Time Warp loop with the Ranger Captain. But then wouldn't be able to use that to protect his combo.
It's definitely what Nick needed. Something like Omnath allows him to play those Orim's Chants and ticky-tacky removal spells and really pull ahead. That 4 mana every time you play a fetch land is quite good.
Here are the dice for our Omnath mana.
Thanks.
White, blue, green, red.
All right, so 4 mana floating from the fetch. Omnath triggers on landfall. Gonna use all but the green. Play another stock up. Top 5 coming. Pick 2 the best.
Interesting they left the green floating. There's not much green in the deck.
Oh, that's
Okay.
the reason. It's Eternal Witness. This one's gonna come and get Orange Chant. And now Nick DiMichele might just be content trying to do a mini chain of Orange Chants on Dylan Pettit until Omnath's able to close the game.
I mean, if Nick has an Ephemerate, then we're looping Orm's Chant, which is basically like looping Time Walk. There's not many instants in the deck for Dylan Pettit. It's really just Collected Company. But like I said, there is still the Ranger Captain that can break up any of these loops. But this is going to buy Nick DiMichele a lot of time.
Moves to end step, discards Heliod at 8 cards in hand. Was missing some land drops, and all this bounce from Nick and Orm's Chance has made it so he can't cast anything. Here is Teferi Time Raveler. That one can bounce the Eternal Witness as well and draw a card.
Yeah, and that will prevent any Collected Company shenanigans.
Yeah, so on your turn, Dylan can't cast stuff, and on his turn, you Orange Chant him. And that is a soft lock. Otawara pick up off of Ren and 6.
Nick moving very swiftly here. This is not the first time he has done this. There's a plus on the Teferi.
And a plus on the Ren to get back Otawara. Gonna play Misty Rainforest. Or I'm not exactly sure what he's explaining.
He's trying to explain a loop and get a concession.
Oh, so Otawara, Ren and 6. Otawara can bounce your own stuff. So you bounce your Eternal Witness, that gets Orange Chant, and then you play it, and then you can Orange Chant every single turn. And with Teferi Time Raveler, your opponent can never cast a spell again. That's what he's explaining right now, and I think it just works.
Yeah, you can even kick the Orange Chant.
Yeah, so no attacks and no spells. And he's basically just showing I have enough mana to do all of this every single turn, thanks to the Ren and 6, thanks to the Eternal Witness, the Otawara, and the Orange Chant.
And importantly, this is a loop where the Ranger Captain Vios doesn't do anything. Because the only non-creature spell Nick is casting is Orange Chant, and he's doing it on Dylan's turn. He could always do it in response to a sacrifice of the Ranger Captain. On his own turn, he's looping with a land activation and a creature spell. So
Yeah,
found the unique loop because of the Ren and 6 to get around that Ranger Captain Vios and completely locks Dylan Pettit out of the game.
You know, there was a turn where he attacked the Ren and 6 for 2 with the Brood Scale, and he could have put a +1/+1 counter on it and sent in the +1 counter spawn, and that was enough to take down that Ren and 6 on that turn if that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, but then would he have had the Ranger Captain?
No, he would have had to make that decision. But
yeah.
So game 1 goes to Nick DiMichele's Omnath strategy. We'll try to get updates on the other matchups for you, but while these players reach for their sideboard, I'm going to allow Ross to go over what they have available and how he thinks they're going to attack this matchup.
So, Dylan Pettit's sideboard is 1 Burrington Forge Tender, 2 Damping Sphere, 1 Eidolon of Rhetoric, 2 Force of Vigor, 1 Haywire Might, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Skyclave Apparition, 2 Veil of Summer, and 2 Wrath of the Skies. Not much I see here that's going to be particularly effective against 4-color Omnath. I think the one of Burrington Forge Tender can be good because of Galvanic Discharge and even sometimes Ren and 6 minuses. I think maybe you want Skyclave Apparition so you can interact with Omnath, Ren and 6, and Teferi, all important cards. You don't want to be too interactive in this matchup because that's the Omnath deck's game, but you want some minimum of interaction in order to stop some of those Planeswalkers and Omnaths from really running away with the game. So Skyclave Apparition, Burnt and Forge Tender are the cards I would consider. The rest, I'm leaving at home.
All right, on the other side of the table.
Then Nick DiMichele has 1 Boseiju Who Endures, 1 Celestial Purge, 3 Consigned to Memory, 2 Deafening Silence, 2 Ghost Vacuum, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Wear Tear, and 2 White Orchid Phantom. There's a consigned memory in the main deck already. That's why there's only 3 in the sideboard. I would want to get that out of the deck. I do not think it is particularly good,
Yeah, I
but
mean it can counter a colorless card, so the
the
Basking
Brood
Brood Scale
Scale,
and the Walking Ballista, but I think neither
yeah,
of those are really all that
it
important
can
to have a
counter the
counterspell for.
Ranger Captain trigger.
Nah, nah, nah,
You
nah.
know,
Miss
just
me with
very
this.
limited applications. So that's a card I want to board out, but I really don't like any of the sideboard cards. This is obviously not a matchup Nick DiMichele came prepared to beat, not one that he built his sideboard with in mind. So,
Good point.
um, yeah, this is really. I think I would just rather have a land than the consign. I would bring in second Boseiju.
Hmm. Okay. As these players shuffle up, I'd like to take this time to thank some of our sponsors for Apex Con and these weekend's festivities here in Caldwell, Ohio. We are sponsored by SpiceRack.gg. SpiceRack is a great piece of tournament software you can use to find a tournament near you or run a tournament yourself. If you're a tournament organizer or a player looking for somewhere to play some Magic the Gathering this weekend, check out SpiceRack.gg. We are sponsored by Ultimate Guard, the industry leader when it comes to TCG supplies. From the Katana sleeve to the Archive deck box, make sure to check out your local game store for Ultimate Guard products today. The Apex Series is sponsored by Once Upon a Galaxy. Blast off with this new mobile game from great minds of Magic like Luis Scott Vargas, Matt Place, and Sam Pardee. This mobile game is available in your app store and free to play right now. If you'd like the Galaxy Pass, you get access to The Boy Who Cried Wolf and all the new captains when they are released. But if you don't want to buy the Galaxy Pass, all of the captains will be available 2 months after release. We're also going to be releasing the game on Steam for early access, hopefully within the next month. And last but not least, we are also sponsored by, which one did I forget?
Uh,
Moxfield.com. Great place to build and share decks with your friends. All of the deck lists from our events are posted on Moxfield. We're going to post a link to our Moxfield page in the chat so y'all can check out all those old standard decks, or the new standard decks that we popped out yesterday, yeah?
Yeah.
Great. Post-rotation standard was pretty fun. Today's modern event has been quite something too, though.
Yeah, very diverse here. There's 12 decks left in the tournament. 2 of them are Boros Energy. 10 of them are
Unique. Tight. Players about ready to go here, so let's head on down for game number 2. Nick DiMichele won game 1 with that Omnath lock. Found a line with, wow, Ren and 6, Otawara, Orm's Chant, and Eternal Witness. Cool.
really, really cool stuff.
All right, looks like both players are going to keep. We should be underway here in just a second. No, DiMichele says, I don't like my hand. I'm going to take a mulligan down to 6. So, all right, Ross. So, Pettit with a Selesnya Heliod deck. This thing seems, I don't want to say one-dimensional, right? Like, this is a combo deck that does have a lot of creatures in it, so technically you can attack your opponent to death. But when it comes to, like, different variations on gameplay, this deck seems like just one-sided combo.
It is always doing a combo, but there's so many different combos in the deck, and that's what makes it difficult to stop, especially if you're not familiar with it and you're not aware of every single way the deck can combo off. It becomes really difficult to diagnose which creatures are the ones you need to kill and which are the ones that you can leave alone. Even if you know it, that can be difficult. Like this Guide of Souls might not be part of Dylan Pettit's plan this game, or it might be central to his plan. Nick DiMichele doesn't really know.
All right, well, we are underway here. Dylan Pettit going to take one from, I believe, a Horizon Canopy to cast Guide of Souls. Then we're going to maybe fetch Shock here with this Windswept Heath.
No fear. Take all the damage. I ain't scared.
It is Horizon Canopy, right?
Yeah. 2 Horizon Canopies in the main base.
Well, here's Basking Brood Scale. It's going to gain a life. We're not doing the Heliod combo yet, but we do gain an energy. We're going to attack for 1. If DiMichele's not careful, he could be in a world of hurt real soon.
Yeah, if there's a Rosy Cotton next turn, that's kill.
All right, so I think instead of the attack for 1, we're going to Solitude, pitch Solitude, and Ephemerate, and eat both creatures. Brutal.
Instead, we're just going to exile your board.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
okay.
now the ephemerate doesn't actually get
Oh,
value on the comeback. I'm curious if he maybe should have tried to wait for like one more creature to come online. Is that too greedy?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, now we can start attacking with the Solitude, and Demon Shell probably understands what's going on and just like wants to make sure that he keeps all the combos off the table as best he can.
I thought maybe he had something like Ren and 6 this turn, so he really wanted to play the Ren on turn 2, but
Hmm.
no play for Nick DiMichele. So, yeah, I could have been a little more patient with this Solitude. Maybe has something on Pettit's turn to use this mana. As is, it's just a 3 for 2
Now, what's the ideology behind no attacks there? You think?
with the Solitude.
Yeah.
I think he ephemerated it to get the ephemerate in the graveyard for Eternal
Oh,
Witness.
so smart. I didn't even think about that. Good
So,
call.
yeah, it was summoning sick.
Yeah, and make sure you can get it back later with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important part of these Omnath decks is the ephemerate Eternal Witness loop.
All right, here comes another Brood Scale, but that meets a Galvanic Discharge, and then we're going to go back Demichel's way.
He is just surgically picking apart this combo deck. Has plenty of creature removal, not letting Dylan Pettit breathe in either game this match, and he's very close to putting his team one match to the good in the semifinals.
Definitely needs some sort of like card advantage style engine. This Solitude's not going to be able to get the job done on its own. Something like a Ren and 6, Omnath, even like a Teferi Time Raveler would be great here. Just needs something to really push him over the top. There's a Wear Tear. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, there's Walking Ballista, there's Utopia Sprawl.
Are there any enchantment creatures or like enchantments running around that are scary? There's the Utopia Sprawl, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, you just said that. Sorry.
Heliod's an enchantment. Not a great target for Wear Tear.
Let me read Wear Tear again. Let's say Exile.
It does not.
All right, Lush Portico, the find on the incept with Dylan Pettit after the Solitude
Yeah.
comes in for 3.
Can't play Gamma Mater without surveilling. That's illegal.
Just a third land for Demichelle, and the attack with the Solitude, we're going to pass it. Guide of Souls goes to the graveyard. Let's see what turn number 4 brings for Dylan.
I'm guessing more sadness.
Oh, here's a Heliod.
Okay, that's actually not sadness. That's vague levels of hope.
Well, Demichelle is responding rather quickly, so I'm curious if this is in response and he has a counterspell of some sort. Is there something in his 75 that can stop Heliod from the stack?
I think Nick assumed that that was Dylan's turn, so he just quickly went to fetch to keep the game moving, and Pettit stopped him and said, "Actually, I have a land drop to make."
Okay. Surveils with Hedge Maze, top card. Thinking about it. Gonna leave it on top. Gonna go to turn number 4, finds Breeding Pool, puts it directly into play. Gonna attack for 3 and gain 3. Dylan down to 10. Alright, we're gonna send it back. Is there subtlety or something? Like, what's the deal? 4 mana, pass turn, taking shock damage?
No subtlety. Probably just multiple spells.
Mm-hmm. Pettit gonna start his turn with sacking Horizon Canopy. If you're Demichelle, you're just fist pumping right now.
We know the Wear Tear is in Nick DiMichelle's hands. Maybe try and hold up Wear Tear plus something else. But that would have to be something castable off of a Simic land. So if he fuses Wear Tear, he'd tap the other two. Maybe just realizing that his life total doesn't really matter. So he might as well just shock in every single land, make his opponent think.
Well, we did see Otawara last game, and it could be that. I'm just trying
That's
to
a good
figure
call.
out what it was.
That's definitely a good call.
All right, I actually think I just got a good look at his hand. I think it's Otawara and Wrath of the Skies are his 2 cards.
So here's a Rosie.
Okay, and in response, we're going to Otawara back the Heliod, so no threat of combo here. Let's get Rosie Cotton on stream because this one is one of the Lord of the Rings cards. Rosie Cotton of South Lane, 3 costs 1/1. When it enters, you get a food, and whenever you create a token, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosie. This works really well with Broodscale and Heliod together.
Okay, well, Nick DiMichele, not playing around, immediately kills the Rosie with a Galvanic Discharge, and then comes in with the Solitude again. Dylan Pettit down to 6.
Yeah, and if Michelle can find land number 5 for Time Warp or something, this could be over right now, but we're going to attack for 3. Dylan Pettit down to 3 life only. Needs to find a way to stop this Solitude from killing him next turn.
No Flages in this Omnath list for Nick D. Michelle. No direct damage of any kind outside of Renin 6 -2s, so we'll have to get through one more attack with the Solitude.
Pettit just cool as a cucumber, too. Look at him.
Well, the Brute Scale threatens to trade with Solitude and potentially stabilize this board. Could also chump with a spawn after adapting.
So unlikely to be dead, but we know D. Michelle has a heater in hand. Here it comes. Wrath of the Skies. Gain 2 energy, and then we're going to pay energy to blow up all the blockers on Pettit's side, and we're going to attack in for 3. Pettit.
Sacks of food from the Rosie, so this will at least stop him from dying.
Yeah, so we do go to 6. We get another turn. He's going to put the counter on Heliod since everything's going to die. No need to make a spawn. Now, Solitude comes in for 3.
Okay, Nick D. Michelle tapped out. Not sure if he has a Solitude in hand, so this could be a window for Pettit to combo. Spike Feeder would do it. So there's really no way for Nick D. Michelle to win through infinite life. He can take a million turns, but he can't stop himself from decking. Could also try to lock Pettit under Orm's Chant loops and deck Pettit, but it's Nick D. Michelle that's probably going to go through more of his deck over the course of the game before you enter that state. It'll probably be him who decks first.
I think D. Michelle is asking for Oracle text on a card, so we just had a minor pause there as he discussed with the judge. Most of Dylan Pettit's cards are in a non-English language.
Okay, this is the turn for Pettit. Has to do something.
Well, I think I saw a Spike Feeder, so I think we can just gain infinite life.
Goes for a Skyclave Apparition. That cannot take out Solitude. Can potentially trade.
Okay. Well, maybe I was wrong about the Spike Feeder. It's fine.
Does Nick have one more removal spell? Looks like he does. There's a Galvanic Discharge. And I think that's it.
Okay, packs it in, does Dylan Pettit, and Nick D. Michelle wins his match. Let's zoom out and see if the other two are still playing or if they're all done. Looks like our middle match is also finished, but that leads me to believe that Abadi won his match. And so it looks like we're going to be going over to Logan Underwood for the deciding match, maybe even the deciding game.
So Affinity defeats Mono Black Eldrazi.
Oh, we called that one. That one seemed like it was somewhat obvious.
Now we have Belcher against Grixis Control to decide this semifinal.
Oh, whoa. But we got Tameshi Bruin. We got Tameshi in play, Lotus Bloom active. We can return a couple things back to our hand. Oh, wow. This might actually be over right now.
I think we're mid-Tameshi turn, given that the land discrepancy on both sides. I think a few lands have been returned for Dylan Glendening already. There's probably some mana floating in the pool, and usually if you're going this far with Tameshi, you're going for a kill. Because bouncing a bunch of lands comes at a pretty steep cost. It takes a while to rebuild.
Okay, we have confirmation from the spotter that we're in game number 2, and the Charbelcher deck is up a game. So if Logan Underwood doesn't have Force of Negation or something here, it looks like this is just going to be all she wrote.
Okay, I think Seagate Reborn being played. Oh no, Seagate Reborn being cast.
What's the
Seagate Restoration? Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, that's the one you always play on the land side. You almost never play Seagate Restoration, right?
Well, on the Tameshi turns you do. If you have enough lands, you make a bunch of mana, and I'm not sure how much mana is floating. I think 0.
Yeah, and I think he didn't have enough mana to continue comboing and didn't have the Belcher in that moment, and so now we just pass turn with Belcher, Tameshi, and potentially combo killing next turn.
Well, you're not going to have nearly as much mana next turn.
That's
so
true.
4 mana on board. You play a land to go up to 5. You have 2 Tameshi activations with 2 lands. Each Tameshi activation costs 1, but nets 3 because of Lotus Bloom, so it's a plus of 2. So that will get Glendening up to a maximum of 9 mana. That's enough to win with a Belcher plus activate. Not enough to win with Whir for Belcher plus activate, which takes 10.
Well, it looks like Underwood not out of it yet. Has a Psychic Frog active and a Tamio, so we can attack with both. Gain a little card advantage. Maybe get this Tameshi off the battlefield. Maybe make Dylan Glendening's life a bit harder over the next few turns. Here comes the frog and the Tamio. We're going to get a clue.
What Logan really wants here is Flame of Anor. 5 to the Tameshi, destroy the Lotus Bloom.
How many of those are in the deck?
3, I believe.
Nice. I love that card.
Yes.
Flame of Nor, one of the standouts from the Lord of the Rings set, got a little overshadowed upon first release due to the sheer strength and volume of the One Rings and Orcish Bowmasters entering the format. But as some of those cards got banned, or the format changed a bit, or some more wizards got printed, like the Tamio, Flame of Nor just really started to kick things off.
Okay, no interaction for Logan Underwood. It's just the attack, a land, and a pass. Glendinning gets to untap with a very full grip, an over full grip, since Seagate Reborn gives him no maximum hand size for the rest of the game.
All right, well, let's see what we got cooking this turn.
I saw Whir drawn for turn, but as I said, Glendinning is one short of being able to cast Whir of Invention for 4 and then activate a Belcher that he finds.
Can we go land, whir, untap, kill, assuming Logan doesn't have the correct interaction?
You'd have to bounce a land back to your hand and have the Lotus Bloom in the graveyard. Then on the following turn, you could regrow the Lotus Bloom and activate. So yeah, could have done it that way, but can do it with 10 mana next turn. So no reason to expose the Belcher to an artifact removal spell.
Now, one of the strengths of this mono blue Belcher deck that I'm sure you're aware of, Ross, is that these free counter spells just seem to protect the combo quite well. And with so many cards in hand, you have to imagine there's like a Disrupting Shoal or something over there that's like waiting to target something.
I believe there's a Shoal. I think there's also a Sink into Stupor that could be a way to protect the combo, and a Spell Snare. I also think I see Into the Floodmaw. That might be used here to stop a Psychic Frog draw.
Okay, I like that play. We exiled 3 from the graveyard to give it flying. Logan not wanting to
Chance any blocking.
yeah.
Logan's very clearly digging in desperation to find some disruption, because clearly doesn't have any if the Tameshi loop happened. Doesn't have a counterspell, doesn't have removal. You know, maybe has like a Colligan's Command, but even that would have likely been cast on this Lotus Bloom at some point.
All right, gonna go back to Dylan.
Yeah, Glendinning decides to let the frog through, so Logan drew an extra card. Didn't do anything with it immediately. Ooh, and there's a Flare of Denial. That's an excellent way to protect the combo. As long as you make all your mana up front with Tameshi, you can sack the Tameshi to the Flare and be happy with it.
Underwood down a game, trying to come back, trying to close this out before Belcher gets activated.
Gave a body pointing to the Philology Archaeologist in Glendinning's hand, potentially wanting to wait one more turn and get a different creature on the battlefield for flame or a flare.
I think part of that is because they have Spell Snare in hand as well, and so it just wants to make sure you can like Spell Snare, Counterspell, and Disrupting Shoal and Flare. Like maybe you just need to stop this whole wall.
With another land drop here, Glendinning can get up to 12 mana. So untapped land gives him 3 mana from lands, 3 from the Lotus Bloom is 6, and now 3 Tameshi activations for 2 mana apiece. That's 6 more.
Okay.
So I'll have 12 mana. That's enough to whir for Belcher, activate the Belcher, and have 2 left over. So actually could play Philology if he doesn't want to sacrifice the Tameshi to the Flare, or could leave up mana for the Spell Snare. Either is a legitimate option, especially since the Philology could find another Flare or another Disrupting Shoal. At this point, you have so many cards in hand, it shouldn't be that hard to find the right mana value to pitch, especially since you have so many 2s and 3s in the mana base. That's why you see a lot of Bain, Veil, and Jwari disruptions in the mana base, so you have more 2s to pitch to Disrupting Shoal.
Yeah, I love the modal DFCs. Specifically love Jawar Disruption. And this deck, you know, I don't want to say it spits in the face of the idea of the double face card by playing all double face to be able to abuse
This
the
is
Goblin
the
Charbelcher.
ultimate realization of those cards.
I like to call it an accident. Someone made double face cards and they're like, these are great, and everyone agreed. And then some guy was like, let's play them with Balustrade Spy and Goblin Charbelcher, and everyone cried.
I didn't. I think that's great. That's what makes Magic fun. Finding weird ways to abuse the cards.
Oh yeah, we really need more ways to abuse Balustrade Spy and Goblin Charbelcher. Two cards historically associated with fun interactive gameplay.
Hey, this is the most interactive Belcher deck of all time.
That's true. That's true. Maybe not actually. The original Belcher deck, I believe it was like PT New Orleans 03. is my guess.
Talking
Uh,
about Mana Severance?
yeah, but it was like a mono blue control deck that used Mana Severance to
Yeah,
empty
like
out the
Gifts
deck.
Ungiven, right?
I don't remember exactly, but I was thinking I was saying that one could be more interactive, but I'd have
Yeah.
to go back and look at the deck list.
I think that one was a Tinker deck originally, too.
Yeah.
Another card associated with fun and interactive Fair Magic.
Look, they let you play 4 Tinker at that Pro Tour. I don't know why. They did.
Nice. Seagate Reborn, the land for Dylan Glendening, pays 3 life for that, so now down to 8. I have to wonder how many cards are in Logan Underwood's hand at this point, and with a clue in play, potentially another clue coming from the Tomio, this Psychic Frog might turn into lethal pretty soon.
And it looks like Dylan just says go, so likely going to go for Whir on the end step for another Lotus Bloom would be my guess.
Or wanting to go for a Sink into Stupor here. Okay, Tomio and Frog come in. Another clue is made.
So I don't know if you noticed, but Logan just like keeps playing lands. I love holding lands when I'm playing Psychic Frog, especially in matchups like this and situations like this. Do you think maybe he just has like 4 pieces of interaction that he's just like trying to be able to cast all of them at once?
No, I just think you like discarding cards to Psychic Frog more than any other human in existence.
Maybe. Hmm.
Okay, Glendening takes 1 from the Frog down to 7. Underwood with another card drawn and another land played. And
Well,
here's the end step Whir, so another Lotus Bloom potentially coming for Glendening.
see if Logan wants to interact. What I'm afraid of on Dylan's side is what if the Tameshi ever died? Like what? Why? I feel like going for it last turn was probably the
Well,
move.
at this point, even if Tameshi dies, you have 9, maybe 10 mana with a untapped land.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually setting himself up to have a Tameshi that isn't all that important.
All right, that looks like a counterspell on the War of Invention and.
And then Disrupting Shoal, pitch Philology Archaeologist.
Mm-hmm.
A little awkward that Glendening has made a play that did not allow him to line up his spell snare into this counterspell.
Well, I don't think he expected that card to get counterspelled. It's just more mana when he's already got 12 mana. But, he wants to ensure he can win through a wall of interaction and forcing, Logan to interact with this while he's tapped out. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see how it ends up.
Okay, I can update you on our backup match, the other half of this semifinal bracket. It is indeed Team Talk Tua Tua Electric Boogaloo
Talk Tua Electric Boogaloo.
taking it down. That's the team of Casey Ryback, Andrew Walthus, and Kyle Montgomery, defeating Zach Spores, Nick Mincucci, and Michael Almasi. So they're going to be in the finals with their Living End, Hollow One, and Is It Prowess decks, awaiting the winner of this match.
Well, I'm pretty sure Dylan's winning this turn, but we'll see how it goes.
This is definitely the go for it turn. He's picked a fight on the end step, tried to limit some of Logan's resources. He now has a ton of mana to work with, several counter spells back. It's go time.
Well, he played the Whir to get a Lotus Bloom. He has to have another Whir, right?
Another Whir or Belcher, some way to complete the combo and kill Logan.
Oh, there's a special card in the graveyard they just looked at. It's Cling to Dust. And maybe that was the thing that was sitting there and preventing Dylan from actually comboing, and we didn't know about it.
Okay, so that's why he goes and gets the second Lotus Bloom. Now you can start comboing with one Lotus Bloom, lose that to the Cling, and continue the chain with the other. It will still stop one of the Lotus Bloom activations. So this is now 9 mana, 10 with an untapped land. 4 activations would normally get you to 18. You get rid of one of them. That's still 16 mana to work with. Or I guess it would cost you 3, so 15 mana to work with. Because you'd still have to pay the 1 to activate, and you wouldn't get the Lotus Bloom. So this should still be a 15 mana turn. That is plenty to be able to play another Whir for a Belcher, activate it, still have mana back to counter. Looks like we're going to start with a Philology Archaeologist.
Okay, and a mill 3, we get to put a non-creature into our hand if we find one. Otherwise, we get a +1/+1 counter on the Philology. We're going to go for a Spell Snare on that Philology. I think that's just going to work.
Yeah, so some interaction drawn for Logan Underwood on these turns. Now things looking a little bit scarier for Dylan Glendening.
All right, so we're gonna make 3 whites, my guess, and then we're gonna start trying to generate big mana.
Yeah, 3 white and pool. Make that 4 white.
And we're
So
gonna
this
use.
is all the white that Glendening should need for the turn.
Yep, and then there's that Seagate Restoration coming back to hand, so we can cast that and draw another 20 cards.
Potentially, if it's 15 mana that's left after the Cling to Dust, you have enough to Seagate into a Belcher. You don't have enough to Seagate into another Whir.
All right, looks like Underwood is not going to bite with the Cling to Dust from the graveyard, deciding to hold up all 5 mana here. Probably has another counterspell at the ready. We'll see what he's got access to.
He's thumbing through his hand. I don't know if I see another way to kill. I think the plan that they were setting up was this second Seagate Restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And with the hand so large from the first one, the second one should almost assuredly find what he needs.
Yeah, but you still might be in some small mana bottleneck. It depends on how Logan wants to get tricksy with some of his interaction, as well as that Cling to Dust. So being very meticulous is Dylan.
Yeah, so Teachings is in the mana base. It's 4 mana instant that tutors for any instant, so you can find Whir with it. That's the most mana inefficient way or most expensive way of winning. That'll be a 14 mana way to do it, but that would work.
Yeah, and he has Flare, so if he just floats all the mana and then does it, and Logan only has one more piece of interaction, should be Dylan's game and match.
Yeah, you don't always see waterlogged teachings. It depends on how many twos you want in the mana base with your lands. Dylan actually opting for 3 copies of this. Fewer twos, more teachings, and that is very good in these long games where you develop a ton of mana and you have a real tutor in your deck to increase consistency.
9 mana floating. Seagate Restoration is the cast. We're going to go to 2 mana floating after that. Need to make sure we leave at least 1 white, probably 2 white floating would be my guess. I guess with the other Lotus Bloom it doesn't matter that much. But this is going to allow us to draw roughly 8 cards, and then that should find win conditions and counterspells galore.
I think it's significantly more than 8. Tidebinder.
Tishana's Tidebinder? I
Oh.
don't see one as 75. Yeah, whatever.
Here's an Orcish Bowmasters. Now Spell Snare from Glendening. Here's a Force of Negation back. The Bowmaster sticks.
Oh my god.
The Seagate is a lethal for Logan Underwood. So needs to counter back.
Well, can counterback can also just bounce it with 2 bounce spells because he's only got 4 mana, so he can only recast it a couple times. What is he casting the hydroelectric?
That is not going to help. That only redirects instant and sorcery spells, not abilities.
And you can't redirect. Oh, he can redirect the force negation to the spell snare, maybe?
That's what it's already countering.
And here's Stern Scolding for the hydroelectric. Well, maybe he could just redirect it to a different spell on the stack.
The specimen only redirects things to specimen. Changes the target of an instant or sorcery spell with 1 target.
Okay.
I think Dylan is just trying to play another creature to then flare, but he could just hardcast the flare for the 3 mana.
If Dylan had floated 4 more mana here before trying to go for it, may have been able to do something, but at this point, I'm not sure if he's able to stop what's happening and then stop the Psychic Frog that's in play.
This could be an incredible finish. Orcish Bowmasters against Seagate Restoration.
You say finish. This is just game 2. If Logan wins this game, we got a third.
Finish to the game.
Yeah.
Flare of Denial, sacrificing Tameshi. Glendinning has to do it to stay alive. And now he doesn't have his source of mana. Even if he finds another Tameshi, he won't have enough mana to deploy it and start the loop over again.
Okay, so we're going to flare the Force of Negation, and then that means a Spell Snare is going to counter the Bowmaster, and Stern Scolding countering the Hydroelectric is fine. And then Seagate happens, and we draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards.
So you get +1.
So draw 7, but only 1 white mana floating. And Logan has at least 1 card in hand and a clue. So unless Dylan has something miraculous here that costs very little mana, Psychic Frog should be able to come across the finish line next turn.
Yeah, only needs 1 card left over because he has the clue, and we'll get another clue from the Tamio attack. You can sacrifice that before damage and discard that card to Frog as well.
And suspend. That one's not going to do it. Underwood going to go fetch in here on the instep. Finds Black-Red Surveil. Has anyone in the history of the game played the Black-Red Surveil land yet? I don't even know the name of it.
It's Raucous Theater.
Oh, okay, I remember now. It's maybe the least common.
Yeah, that's probably true. Mostly Reanimator decks playing with Raucous Theater. The Faithless Looting builds of Goryo's Vengeance.
Logan puts a Flame of Anor into the graveyard off the Surveil land, but I think he just has this all locked up here. Gonna make a clue. Before damage, we're going to crack a clue. Draw. Before damage, we're going to crack another clue. Draw. Transform Tamio. Forced. Doesn't matter. Discard 3. Oh, he ticked it up.
Well,
alright. Dylan Glendinning defeated. A lot of different decisions could have been made that game, but that was a very difficult game to navigate on Dylan's side of things, and Logan Underwood was able to use every single piece of interaction he had to stop him.
Yeah, the spell in Logan's graveyard, the Cling to Dust, that we couldn't see, was really critical. I thought he'd be going for it earlier, but turns out he couldn't because the Cling to Dust threatened to break up the Tameshi chain, so forced to use the Whir of Invention instead of for Belcher to find another Lotus Flume to power through that. Then ended up just navigating himself into an awkward spot because he had to use another Seagate Restoration and just protecting himself from dying from the Orcish Bowmasters cost himself too much time. So, yeah, really well played, I think, from Logan Underwood. Looked to be in a very bad spot with Glendinning resolving the previous Seagate Restoration, was up very far on cards, had plenty of mana to work with, and Underwood was able to piece together just enough disruption to get over the finish line with the few turns that he had with Psychic Frog and Tamio in play. And I gotta say, all that extra mana with those lands he played came up big on that huge counter war turn.
No, you're right. And I think the Cling to Dust might have changed the equation as well, right? Because he was playing fetch lands, and there weren't that many cards in his graveyard, and so those fetch lands doubled as being able to use the Cling to Dust and hold up other counter magic. So, contextually speaking,
yeah,
obviously Logan made a better play than what I was suggesting.
We joined that game, after the Cling was put into the graveyard. Didn't get a good look at it. So this game 3, however, we're going to get to see from the beginning, and this will be the last game of the semifinals. The winner of this game will take their team to the finals to face off against Casey Ryback, Andrew Wolthus, and Kyle Montgomery. That'll be the match that gets you into the Apex Invitational.
All right. Belcher's going to be on the play here for game number 3. In general, do you think the Psychic Frog style matchups, especially the ones that act like a Murktide deck, that act like a control deck, do you think that those are particularly difficult for Belcher, or do you think it's a Belcher favor?
I think they're generally good for Belcher. You have to do two things. One is you have to stop early frogs from running away with the game. And
Yeah.
you have Stern Scolding,
Spell Snare.
Dispel Snare, Disrupting Shoal, even sometimes unable to scream out of the sideboard. There's two here for Dylan Glendening. So you need to stop that. That's step one. Step two is you have to make a lot of land drops because you're going to build up and go for it on one big turn, and you need to overload their mana.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that oftentimes by picking the fight initially on their turn with like a Whir of Invention, and then having them commit resources on their end step, then untap and overwhelm them when their mana is at a low point. So if you can make land drops, stop the card advantage from the control deck, it's not that difficult to pick your spot and find a turn where you can overload their defenses. But you have to be very patient about it and very calculated. And based on what I saw from game 2, even though he didn't win it, Dylan Glendening is both of those things.
All right, Dylan Glendening going to keep his opening 7 Underwood, takes a quick mulligan to 6. We'll see if he's happy with it or wants to take another mull.
Now, relative to a matchup like Dimir Murktide, this Grixis deck has actual artifact removal, Flame of Anor and Kolaghan's Command. So you also have to be more careful with your Lotus Blooms. You really don't want to expose a Charbelcher if you don't have to. That's generally fine against Dimir unless they're going to kill you the following turn.
All right, here are 2 Lotus Blooms coming into Suspend. And in a couple turns, those are going to pop off and maybe allow Dylan to bust through all the counter magic. Fetch land for Logan Underwood on turn 1, going to pass back.
Now, the first Suspend Lotus Bloom on turn 1 is generally pretty good. The second one can sometimes be a liability because your opponents are able to... They basically know what turn they need to have all their mana up. They can be more aggressive in the early turns. It's also a card that lines up very poorly into Consigned Memory that all these decks have in their sideboard. What you want to do from Logan's side is not counter the remove a time counter trigger. There's a separate trigger that once you remove the last time counter, you are granted permission by the game to cast the Suspend card. If you counter that trigger, the Lotus Bloom stays in exile with 0 Suspend counters and never gets to trigger for Glendening to cast it again. And stranding it in the exile zone is much better in the face of Tameshi in a long game.
Is there any way for one Consigned Memory to get both Lotus Blooms?
Not to strand them both, because what will happen is both remove time counter triggers will go on the stack, and then when the first one resolves, it'll have a cast trigger on the stack still on top of the remove time counter trigger of the second one. Okay. So you could counter both of those triggers and strand one while delaying the other one by a turn by replicating a consign, but you can't strand 2 Lotus Blooms at once.
All right, here's a Thoughtseize from Logan. That's going to take away Whir of Invention. So that was the kill in hand for Dylan. So now he just has all mana.
Yeah, but Tameshi is definitely the scarier card unless Logan has a removal spell.
Now, if you're Dylan, do you ever sandbag the Tameshi if you can cast it here? I guess most of his lands are tapped here, right? So
yeah,
maybe we can't.
You want to play Tameshi only at a point where you can at least get the first activation, because when you bounce a land, you also trigger to draw a card, the Tameshi. So you got a card out of the trade, and that's very important.
I think figuring out a way to pick up the teachings is also pretty important, too.
Yeah. Sometimes it's important with Disrupting Shoal, which Glendening does have in hand. If you have a specific mana value you want, the return of land is part of the cost. So you get it into your hand immediately, then they go to kill the Tameshi, and you can protect it. Happens a lot against Solitude, because Suppression Array is a 5, and it's your only 5, and you really want to play them early. You just bounce 1 as your first activation of Tameshi, and then you can Shoal the Solitude.
All right, going to put Snapcaster Mage into the graveyard. Blast from the Past. Coming back because of Flame of Anor, and it's a wizard. Here's Raucous Theater, top card.
Yeah. Very importantly, no pressure here from Logan Underwood. Didn't have an early Tomio, no early Psychic Frog, so Glendening can go at his own pace. Doesn't have to be too aggressive, but is threatening a lot here with the Tameshi and 2 Lotus Blooms on turn 4.
All right, 2 Lotus Blooms. Seems like they both resolved.
Yep. And with the land drops that Glendening made, he didn't play the Bayan Coast, so Veil is still in hand. Logan Underwood knows 3 out of the 4 cards in hand for Dylan Glendening, and I think the other one is a Hydroelectric Specimen, which is not the worst here. It's quite good at redirecting Lightning Bolt.
Just stern scolding for the
Uh,
Tameshi.
this makes a lot of sense why Logan thought seized the War of Invention instead of Tameshi. He had a counterspell that specifically only hit Tameshi.
And we see the hard cast Disrupting Shoal here for 3 mana, going to counter a 1-cost spell. It's not a counter unless they pay us a counter mana value. Normally you pitch like a 1-drop to counter a 1-drop, but here we can just pay blue X.
Okay, now Tameshi resolves. There's no way to kill it for Logan Underwood because a Fatal Push wouldn't have Revolt. Dylan Glendening deciding not to activate Tameshi. That's interesting because even though you put yourself down on mana, you draw an extra card. And that's
Yeah.
what Glendening needs right now.
I think I would have sacked a Lotus Bloom and returned the Waterlog Teachings, draw a card, get the Lotus Bloom back, and then crack that Lotus Bloom to cast the Teachings, and then just try to set up a kill next turn.
Yeah.
Maybe you can still do it anyway, but getting the card draw immediately means that a removal spell on the other side isn't enough to disrupt you in that moment.
Yeah. He would have left himself with 3 lands in play after playing Bain Coast and Lotus Bloom in the graveyard to start the following turn. Has the white mana to start the chain, would have been able to get up to a 12 mana, which is enough to whir for a kill.
Okay, we're going to float 4 white, and then we're going to activate Tameshi, targeting Lotus Bloom, returning the suppression. We're going to draw a card, get the Bloom back. No response from Logan. Maybe the shields are down.
Now, what was the card drawn for Dylan Glendening? One good draw step could end this game and match.
Does he have enough to go for Teachings, Whir, Kill, or is he just short because Tameshi is a lot of mana but not that much mana?
So there's 3 mana in pool right now. There's another 6 mana available. That's 9. 3 more Tameshi activations from those lands gets him to 15. Plus he has a land drop left to make. So he has plenty of mana to Teachings for Whir for Belcher, and activate. That requires 14 total.
Okay, let's see if that's the line. Okay.
Belcher the draw. That's a pretty good one.
I agree.
So Logan is going to need a counterspell to survive, and actually one counterspell won't be enough because the Tameshi can rebuy the Belcher as long as you keep a land around. So there's 5 mana in pool now for Dylan Glendening. He can play Belcher with 1 floating. Then he has 6 more mana. That's 7. You can get 2 from 2 of the lands, gets you to 11. Then you need 5 mana plus a land to return the Belcher. That leaves 6 floating. More than enough to activate it.
What if he floats all the mana, puts the Teachings back in hand, casts Belcher? Maybe all but 1 activation. Okay, maybe that's what he's doing now. So he can Teachings for a counterspell in response to a counterspell.
He only has 3 spare mana here, unless he has a land drop left to make, which I think he might. In that case, then he has 5 or 6 spare mana, and that would allow him to Teachings for a free counterspell.
All right, Lotus Bloom comes back, 6 mana floating. Now we're doing some quick maths.
Being very careful on this turn. This is not a turn you want to make a silly mistake in, especially because it's going to involve bouncing a lot of your lands. He fails to go off this turn, then he set himself back quite a bit.
All right, just going to cast Belcher.
Ooh.
Logan going to tap 3. This looks like we're going to counter it 3 times. And I think that's just fine for Dylan, since we can just rebuy it from the graveyard.
Yeah, this should be pretty easy win. There's 2 mana left in pool. There's 5 mana available, so that's 7. You bounce 1 land, you get back up to 9.
That's 11.
Then you bounce for 5 mana, you bounce the other land, go down to 4, return Belcher, activate with 1 floating.
Okay, let's see if Dylan does it. Does Logan have surgical extraction, anything like that?
Not that I'm seeing, and this is open deck list, so Glendening has this information as well. The only free spells are...
Oh, wait, one of the bounces has to get back the Belcher, and the other one is Lotus Bloom, so it's less mana than I thought, at least. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's enough mana. So we're up to 6 now. You return Lotus Bloom with 1 of them. You need 5 more mana to return Belcher, 4 and a white. And then that last land, yes, okay, up to 9 total mana. So now you use 5 of it. And I think Glendening has a land drop as well. So there's white he's already used. Has 8 floating, needs 4 more. Use 4 blue. There it
And
is.
that's it. Dylan Glendening and his team gonna take this one down. The first match that we watched was Dylan Pettit with that Heliod deck get trounced by the Omnath strat from Nick DeMichelle, but DeMichelle's other 2 teammates could not get the job done. So that's the team of the 2 Dylans and Gabe Abadi going to the finals.
Yeah, and quite a matchup here. It's Selesnya, Heliod, Affinity, and Belcher against Living End, Hollow One, and Is It Prowess?
All right, well, that match took quite a minute, so let's head on back to the booth and we'll get set up for the finals here and bring you guys a champion. Well, that was a really fun round. Top 4 matches did not disappoint. We will be taking a short break. When we come back, we're going to show you the finals. Who's playing what?
So it's Heliod against Living End.
Okay.
I gotta say, Edge Living End.
Okay.
Jeskai Affinity against Hollow One. I have no clue. Whose opening hand is better? Belcher against Prowess. That is one of Belcher's worst matchups in the format.
Okay, might be a tight one. So we're gonna get Ross kick him out of the booth. We're gonna get Corey back in here for the finals. But we're gonna take a short break while we get that set up for you. We'll be right back for more live coverage and crown us a champion.